Good morning. Yesterday we began the Perek Naira Hamurasa, and we saw a chiddush that a girl who is a Naira, that means between the ages of 12 and a day and 12 and 6 months, if she is an Arusa, meaning she is only in the first stage of marriage and not Nisu in the second stage of marriage, that in order for her Nedarim to be removed, you need a shutfis, the partnership between the father and the husband. That's the shutfis between the father and the husband. That was the chiddush. We saw in the parsha of Matos at the beginning, there were three distinct parshiyos. The first one was when she's in her father's house. The third one was she's in her husband's house. And the middle one was ambiguous. It says, and it should be to a man. And we said that the vav is mischaber, it connects the first parsha to the second parsha. That just like the second parsha, she's speaking where she's already to another man, meaning Erisin, and the vav connects it to the parsha before. That the when she's an arusa and the parsha before the father, then in shufis goes ahead and is matir and neder. We has kashas on it, but that remained. Today we're going to see a second source for Naira Murasa that a Baal and Aviyah they finish in the Deha. We're beginning on Samach Aleph Amid Aleph. It's a very short daf. It's a very short daf with a very long ran, which the ran really is explaining a Gemara and Daf Ayin. But right now, intents and purposes, let's focus on the limud. The Rabbi Shmuel Tana. The Tana Rabbi Shmuel learn where is the source, and they bring a pasuk. The pasuk is, guys, is in Matos. It's Perek Lamed. Pasuk is Zayin. Pasuk says, "Eila hachukim asher tziva Hashem es Moshe." These are the chukim that Hashem commanded Moshe. Bein ish leishtain, bein av lebitoi, binureha beis aviha. So it says Rabbi Yishmael, bein ish leishtain, bein av lebitoi, and then it says binureha beis aviha. So when she's in the nureha beis aviha, bein ish leishtain, when she's binureha beis aviha, lanarum rasa shavio ba'al mefina dereha. So we learn out that when she's base, she's still in her father's house, but bein ish leishtai, that there's a parsha of Naira Murasa. That's the limud according to Tanakh Yishal, much more easier limud than the other one. Look at Rashi for a second. Top line, second line. The Mashmalei the Naira Murasa Ari Midichsiv Bahukra. It says Binura Beisavia. Ubi the Samach Avla Bitoi Bahade Ish. When it juxtaposes Avla Bitoi next to Ish, Mashma the Avu Balma Fina the Reha. The conjunction can be made for the neder. And we know it's speaking about Naira Murasa because it says Binura Beisavia. And so therefore, we're now asked the obvious question: what does the Tana B'Yishmael do with the limit we have from yesterday? And what does the limit from yesterday do with the Tana B'Yishmael? Says the Gemara. Well, the Tana B'Yishmael, he had to put the vav in, guys. V'im hoyu siyel ish my oven. Lay the vav that's mischaber pasha rishon to pasha sheni. We saw yesterday, right? What does he do with that? So mukim leidach the rava or rabba. He uses it for another din of Rabba. Okay, this is give me a minute. The father has rights to Nedarim. So his right when the girl is single is totally his. When the girl gets married, so the pshat is there is a hisafa to his existing right. What happens if that hisafa is no longer there? Let's say the husband dies, right? Let's say the husband dies on the day he heard it. Then the father retains his right to take off the neder. So this is the concept called nisroikna. Nisroikna, that the father re-inherits the right to take off the neder. It's a one-way street, guys. If the father dies, the husband does not go ahead and retain any right. He never had a right in the first place. Again, the right came when he got married, but the father was there before. So the din of Nisroikna, inheriting a right to go ahead and remove a neder, right? The shaila is the father gets it. The father gets it. So it says from Hoyasiya, it says a double lashon of the double lashon. The havayas are the same, meaning just like the father had a right to go ahead and be matter than made for neder alone, even after, right, he goes ahead and the husband dies, he retains that right. So this is the lashon. If the husband dies, the Baal dies, that the father goes ahead and the ability to make for the neder reverts to the father. It doesn't go the other way, it only goes one way. It's it doesn't just says the word Rabbi. We're going to discuss this in the Mishnah and the Tayin, and today's Daf Yomi base, this roikna, the father retaining a right or regaining a right, regaining the right. So now, for Rabbi, high ton of Rabbi Shmuel my overlay. For Rabbi, what do they do with the ton of Rabbi Shmuel's David? Says Gemara, the Baal is able to go ahead and be made for Nedarim beino leveina. In other words, there's only two types of Nedarim that a husband can go ahead and take off are two. One, we mentioned yesterday, lanos nefesh, one of inu nefesh. We said, say the girl makes the neder not to wash. Say if it's inu nefesh, you will be able to take off. If it's inu nefesh, you will be able to take off. Or if it's one of what? Of beino leveina. Things to do between them, between the two of them. So the limud of the Torah Shmuel is that just the same nedarim that limits the husband would extend what to the father. The father would only be able to take off the nedarim that exists between him and her, meaning beino leveina and lanos nefesh. Those two. If you look at the Ran, where it gets semi-wide, go down about 6 lines. Those two components. 1, inui. 2, inyanim de beino leveina. Hachanami av ina meifim benidroi bitoi ela bavad. The husband, the father only also will be able to take off those two. In the nefesh and right. So that's then he brings the lima for the sefri. Look at the first line in the first wide line in the Ran. The Rambam learns that the father could take off all the nedarim. So again, let's chazir what we have. A recap. We have two sources for the din of Naira Murasa. The first one, the parsha of the second parsha. Then Hoyusiya connected back to the first parsha. The first parsha is speaking about the father. The second parsha is speaking about the husband. Together, right? What do they do? And then we have a ton of Yishmael. We learn that from it says Benaira Benura Beisavia, and then it says Ben Ishli Ishtay Ben Av Labita. We make a hekesh between the two. So when she's in Naira Murasa, the hekesh, the father and the son and the husband together take it off. What do the Tanabei Yishmael do with the Hayasiya? That's to teach me the din of Nisroikna, a tremendous din, a chiddush, as we're going to see in a second, that the father retains the rights in certain scenarios. What does the Tanabei Yishmael do with the limud of what of the Hayasiya? He learns it out that just like the father, just like the husband can only take off Ini Nefesh and the Varnish Ben Alvina, who had in the father can only take off those Nedarim. Just the next piece of Gemara is one of the more famous questions in the Masechta. And let's see the Lashon. Let's see the Lashon of the Ran, and then we'll explain it as best we can. Iboilahu. Baal Megas Gayas, the husband, literally, does he cut off? By Miklash Kolish, or does he weaken? What does that mean? Let's see the Ran. First wide line. Iboilahu. Baal Megas Gayas and Miklash Kolish. Kloimar. Orus. As soon as again you have an existing neder, arus she'ena mefer ela b'shut faseha, right? That only can go ahead and be mefer b'shutfis. And I take away the existing neder. Only mefer b'shutfis. The av kishemefer chelkoi when he's mefer the chelik. Now it doesn't make a difference who's being mefer, whether it's the husband being mefer or the father being mefer. The question is what mechanically happens when this occurs. So there's a Naira Murasa, there's an existing neder, and there to take off that neder, what mechanically happens when one of them takes off the neder or not? Kloimar. What does Megas Gayas mean? Kloimar. Shechoytiv chatzia neder legamri. He completely takes off his chelik. Umivatloi, and is vatl his chelik. He did his job. V'chetzia va'acher nishar chazak kibatchila. And the second one remains as strong as it was before. The quantity of the neder is still there. Nothing changed. in the neder. You did your job, and the quantity of the neder is still there. It doesn't weaken the neder at all. Or miklash kolish. The loynema, you shouldn't say say the following: Hachte chatzia neder the levatal hu palga, that you go ahead and kodify the neder idach palga kidekoi koi. You don't say that. Ella, what do you do say? Ba'afarisa oris miklash hu de kolish le kule neder. He goes ahead and he weakens part of the neder. You learn one or the other. So look at me. Let's go ahead and view the neder one or two ways. We know mechanically the father does his part and the husband does his part. This girl is squeaky clean. She's good. How does that work? Does it work the following way? The father takes off his part and the neder, the power of the neder has not been compromised ki huzeh. It's the same powerful neder. It's right there. The neder is right there. And then when he takes his, it removes it, or no? Do we say when the father takes off his part, the neder has been compromised? In other words, the neder is not that he took off part of the neder, he weakened the neder. So it's not, the neder that was strength of 100 is now the strength of a 50. In other words, it's just gone down. My nafkamina between the two, says the Gemara, my nafkamina. So iboilahu, Baal Megas guy is a miklash kolish. Now hechi komi boile, keep going. Did Nadra matarin zaysin. Okay, the Ran learns it's a zayas and different types of food. Taisus learns, let's learn pashit, two zaysin. He makes a neder, she makes a neder not to eat two zaysin, not to eat two olives. The shama oris, the oris hears, the hefala, and he takes it off. But so in other words, so part of the neder has been taken off. And now she eats both of them. So you had a neder on two, she eats one. If you say that the husband took off his part, the father didn't take off his part yet, but the neder has not been compromised, and the full strength of the neder is still in vogue, then what? Then what's going to happen? Then she will be what? She will get malchus. She will go ahead and get a malchus. Megas Gaius Lakya. If you say Megas Gaius, she'll get malchus because the neder is still fully intact and she's over on Layachal Devarai. But Miklash Kolish, if you say that the neder has been compromised and it's no longer the same quantity of the neder in vogue, then Isur Ba'almahu, then it's just an Isser, similar guys to Chatzi Shir. Like Chatzi Shir, the Isser is there. Chatzi Shir is awesome in a Torah, you just can't get punished. So who would then over here, it's like Chatzi neder is there, but you can't get punished. Again, one more time, Lamda Shashayla. When the neder is mechanically, how exactly does it work? Does it work that when you take off your part, you did your job and the neder is still intact, it's totally there? Or do you say by you doing your job, you've impacted the neder? In other words, it's still there, but it's there weaker because you took off part of it. My nafkamina, the nafkamina would be whether you get malchus or not. Okay, according to the Shaila Megas guy, is that sad you get malchus because the neder is still the full-fledged neder. According to the side, Milkash Kolish, it's not the same neder, and it will be usher. And a very good dogma to the idea of weakening something would be Chatzi Shir. We pass in Gemara last Perik and Yuma, according to Machlokes Rishlok Rabbi Yochanan, we pass like Rabbi Yochanan that it's awesome in Torah. That's the Shaila. We're now going to go ahead and get into the sugya of this Reikna. We're going to go through a long brisa, and at the end of the brisa, we're going to say whether it's Miklash Kolish or Megas Gaius is the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai is going to say Megas Gaius, and Beis Hillel is going to say Miklash Kolish. That's what we're going to do, and that's what we're getting into. So now, I'm going to put up a chart of Hesh. I don't have time for questions. Yeah, okay. After the share. I'm going to put up a chart, and from the chart, we're going to go through the whole Gemara, okay? From the chart, we're going to go through the whole Gemara. Okay, so now what Mahim had Dalim Mikorim, what are the four ways that of the Brisa Umahadin Behem? In other words, There's a part one I want to get to. 1 second. Let me just try to stop the share. Let me get to the part one. I'm gonna put you on. Oh, if I can get this picture. Here we go. Okay. We know that in order for the neder to be taken off, the father or husband have to do it on the day they hear it. Once a day goes by, they lose their right. On the day they hear it, they have until the time day to take it off. If they're Mekayim the neder, again, they're keeping the neder. If they don't say anything, well, they still didn't say anything. Good? So now, in a case where Meis Boy Bayoim, now remember, the guy's Nisroikna it's a one-way street. The death of the husband, does it allow the father to go ahead and be made for the neder? So now, when the husband dies, Loishama Habal Klal, he never heard it at all. He never heard it at all, and he died. Whether he died that day or another day, since he never heard it, when he dies, the father retains the right, he inherits the right to take off the neder. The husband did nothing. He didn't hear about it, he didn't know about it, and Memela, he's not a player whatsoever. In that scenario, it goes back to the father. Shama v'hefer, what happens if the husband went ahead and heard it and then died? So great, that's obviously a case, right? He heard it, he was made for, he took off his part. Now the father didn't do anything yet. Now the father could take it off. The father has the right to take it off. Or shama v'shasak, let's say the husband heard and remained silent. Then if he dies that day, in other words, he still could have done something, but he didn't. The strike it goes back to the father. However, if shama v'shasak and he dies the next day, by the fact that he was shasak the day that he heard it, that's like he's mekayim it. And memela loinis reikna the havikiyim. It doesn't go back to the father. Why? Why doesn't it go back to the father? Because in fact, by not doing anything and dying, his not doing anything was mekayim the neder. He only had 1 day to take it off. The clock was ticking. The ball was about to come down. And right? It was supposed to come down. And nonetheless, what? He didn't do anything. So he's mekayim. Now, Shama v'kayim, obviously, if the husband heard and was mekayim, no matter which day, loinus reikna, then that scenario, guys, would not be what? That he would not give it to the husband. He would not give it to the father. So that's the first scenario. That's the first scenario. Okay. Let me try to get the second scenario up here. Okay, we're good. Here's the brisa. 4 scenarios. Good. Who heard? Who died? And what's the din? Okay. Shama avehefer. The father heard, and he was mefer. So before you go weiter, you all know what? That's the one-way street. If the father is mefer, there's no way he's going to inherit anything. If the father dies, the husband obviously can't go ahead and take it off. Despite the fact that the father took off his part, it has to be shnei b'vasachas. So the husband cannot inherit. The Baal can't inherit the father. Again, that's the way it is. It's only a one-way street. Good. Next case. Shama habal behefer. The Baal heard and he was mefer, and then the Baal died. So that's a classic Nisroik and the Lav. The father now would get back his right. That's the first chart, guys. It worked. Shama habal behefer. The Baal goes ahead. He hears and he's mefer. Umesa'av. Well, the father didn't take it off. It's not like Nisroik le Baal. Forget about it. It's out. Again, it's a one-way street. Remember, this is what we need. Shama ha'av behefer. The father hears his mefer, and then the Baal dies. So the father did his part. Then the Baal dies. Does the father now still retain that right? Says Beis Shammai nisroik la'av. Says Beis Hillel lo nisroik la'av. And we're going to see that. We're going to see in the Ran. This is Hillel's Megas Gaius. So therefore, the father taking off his part and him dying, the nether still intact. Whereas Beis Hillel says it's going to be Miklash Kalish. So that's the chart, and it's going to help. We're just going to go through the Gemara now, and everything should be good. Everything should be well. Everything should be well now. Says the Gemara inside. Tashma. Say Omru Meis Habal, that if the husband dies, the that the father would get retained rights. Bisman Shaloi Shoma Habal Koidim Sheyamusu, Shama Vishasak, Shama Vehefer, Umeis Boy Bayoim, and then the husband dies. In all those scenarios, then the father would retain or regain rights to take it off that he always had. Aval Amid Beis, Avalim Shama Vikayim, if he heard it and he was Mikayim, Shama Vishasek, and this is the Baal, Umeis Boy Biyom Shala Akrav, and Yachalahafe, the father can't take it off. Why? Because the husband didn't take it off. Either it was Mikayim it, or the husband heard and wasn't Mikayim it, but he had a chance to, so his death is a kiyam of it, and then Mela, the father, doesn't have a right. Shoma Aviyah Veheferlah, the father hears and he's mefer. Like his big Baal Lishmaya, the Baal didn't get a chance to hear at Shemesa after the father died. So obviously, guys, the father, that's a one-way street, right? Suya Sheninu, Mesa Av, Loy Nesroik Nevishus Labal. He doesn't have a shus. Shama Baila, the Heferlah, the Baal takes off his part. Like hispika Av Lishmaya at Shemesa Baal, Suya Sheninu, Mesa Baal, Nesroik Nevishus Av. Shama Baila, the Heferlah, the Baal heard and he took it off. Like hispika Av Lishmaya at Shemes. And right, then the husband dies. Father dies. Hafa. Now, Amid Aleph, Amid Aleph. Shama Aviyah v'Heferlah. The father goes ahead. He hears, and he's made for the neder. Hispik Habal Lishmaya at Shemes. And the husband didn't have a chance to hear it until he died. Had he heard it, you don't know what he did, but he didn't hear anything. So now. That the father would regain rights is the words of Beis Shammai. The father would not be able to take it off. That's a good raya. So your place to the shaila, it's the machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Let's see the round here. Amr Reb Nasan, hein divrei Beis Shammai. The ksavri. The Yachal Av Lahafir B'chiyai Gavna, in a scenario where the father heard and it was Mefer, and then the husband didn't get a chance to hear until he died. Again, that's the scenario over here. B'chiyai Gavna Uvafaris Kelka Shel Baal Bilchut Sagi, and his Beis Shammai is of the opinion that Farah of the Baal alone would be enough. Mishum that Farah the Av, Kim Leimeis Leivatle. One more time. Amr Nasan, Hani Direi Shammai, the Ksavi, the Yochel Avla Hafer, B'chiyai Gavna, Upafor Eskelka Shel Baal B'Lchut Sagi, Mishwai, Mishun the Haforis, the Hafor the Av, Kiven Loy Meis, Loy Vatale. Since the father didn't die, it's not Mavatal. The death of the husband takes him out of the picture, but it keeps the father viable. Avo Beis Hillel Loymrim Ein Yochel Hafer Klal. Va'afilu Chazon Mefer Chelkai. Even if you go back and take off his chelik again, the chelik Habal, the Baal's dead, right? So let's say we go and take off both. Because Yavin and Taima Mishum, Dilbei Shammai Megas Gaius. Kishahefer Av Hatchila, when the father took off his neder before the husband died, before he heard the husband died, what happened? Hefechelkol Bilvad. He only took off his chelik. The chelik Habal Lo Nigra Klal. And the chelik Habal has not been compromised. Again, what does Megas Gaius mean? You took off what you could take off, but it doesn't compromise the neder at all. So the Baal's nether wasn't compromised, and the Baal's dead, he's out of the picture, so therefore the father can take it off. Ella, Adayin hu kayim legamri. The husband's nether is still there. And he's chashiv to go ahead and be moirish his to the av. In other words, guys, It's not pshat that the father takes off his part, the husband dies, and then so Mamela, the neder is taken off. No. They both have to take off the neder. The question is whether the husband is moirish his rights to the father, and then the father would take it off a second time, but he's taking off the husband that he inherited. He took up his chelik, and it hasn't been compromised at all. And now there's an existing neder out there because it hasn't been compromised at all. Who has the existing neder? The husband. What happens? The husband's dead, goes back to the father. That's Beis Shammai because it hasn't been compromised, and therefore he can take it off. Continues the Ran, Ula Beis Hillel, Miklash Kalish. Late Beis Hillel, no. When the father took up his neder before the husband heard about it, and consequently before he heard about it, died, he compromised the neder. The Baal's chelik was compromised. The Eine Chashiv Lo Yishel La'av, and it's not chashiv to go ahead and bequeath to the father. The kivin the av akati isya hafar since the father's still around, hafar di day like batla law. It's not batla at all. Vakati nadra bikilu shasakoi, and the nether is still weak. The kivin the kolish le chelka shel baal le matzi mei for av. The father can't take off this weak nether. And miu hani mili b'shaloim is arsa acher, that if she didn't get engaged to somebody else, al this arsa acher boy bayoim. You'll see later on, okay? Let's say the husband died, she got engaged, didn't waste any time and got engaged another day, then he wouldn't. Okay, so very geschmack. Let's go over to Shaila, let's go over to Psak. We have a Shaila like this. We know that there's such a concept, as we've been learning, that the husband and the father take off a neder. In a scenario where a father goes ahead and takes off his part, and then the husband doesn't do his job, we know the father can go ahead, double lashon, he's back to the second kedushin, like the first kedushin. Just like before the first kedushin, he can take off the neder. So to the second kedushin, he can take off the neder after it's bottled, right? That meaning before kedushin, after kedushin. That's the difference. So that's called nisroikno. It's a one-way street. It can only go from the husband to the father inherits the husband. The husband can never inherit the father. We had a brisa that illustrated that in different scenarios. The final scenario was the following. The father heard about it. The father was made for the neder. The husband never heard about it, and he died before he heard about it. So you have this existing neder over there. How do we view the existing neder of the Baal? If we view that the father did his part, and the neder has not been compromised and it's still there, so therefore the husband can go ahead and be moirish that complete chelik that he had to the father. Now the father takes off that complete chelik. That's the sheet of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says, no, you cannot take off the neder. Why? Because when the husband takes off his part, it doesn't go ahead and not compromise the neder. In fact, compromises neder. It weakens the neder. It makes like chatzi share. I did my part, and I'm waiting for you to do your part. But your part now is less because I took off part of it. So yours is not as strong. That not as strong neder that the husband cannot bequeath to the father. And therefore, why? Because Miklash Kolish. And that's the shita of Beis Hillel. Yes, she had a question. I think it's answered, right?
Yeah, good.
I thought so. Just have to wait. You have to wait it out. Very good shmaka Gemara. Okay, the length of these runs, guys, over here is a daf ayin. You're wondering why the run after we did it in 15 minutes. Why does the run? It would take us 2 days to read this run, right? It's really a daf ayin. So I wish everyone a great day.